There's more! It was awful! I'm back! CGI shit!
I rest my case.
It was fucking horrible!
Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another opening night. I'm a little late to this one. I've been late to a lot of the recent movies, but this is the first one of the newer films that I've actually been wanting to see, and that is Gladiator II, directed by Ridley Scott, a sequel to the first Gladiator that came out 25 years ago. Now, I'm actually going to be kind of doing something interesting with this, because this is sort of a double feature. So, Honey Bear really wanted to see this movie, because she's a fan of Pedro Pascal, among a few actors in this film, but I figured I would show her the first one. So we watched it actually last night, and she really liked it, and me watching it many a times. I actually did see Gladiator when it came out in 2000. I was 8 years old. My mom took me to see it, and I thoroughly enjoyed Gladiator. I think it is a marvelous film. Russell Crowe kicks ass in it, the whole cast, Joaquin Phoenix, Sir Richard Harris, a lot of great people in that film. And Ridley Scott, like, it kind of brought him back into the spotlight. And I am no stranger to Ridley Scott. I think he is one of our most visually impressive filmmakers of our time. I think Legend is one of my favorite movies, so he's a visual masterpiece. I prefer his Renaissance fantasy films more than I do his science fiction. I know he did Alien and all that, but I prefer this stuff. And hearing about, apparently surprisingly, they made a sequel, Gladiator II. This has been the year of surprise sequels, hasn't it? We had Twister 2, we had Gladiator 2, we had all these different sequels to big popular films. And a lot of them have been surprisingly really damn good. Like, this is the year of surprisingly good sequels. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of interesting. So, much like Twister 2, I was not expecting a Gladiator 2, and I heard only recently that they had been trying to get a sequel off the ground for like eons, getting Russell Crowe in somehow, and some of the script ideas are insane. If you want to see what the original Gladiator 2 ideas were, go check them out online. Try to research it, because it is fascinating. But now here we are 25 years later after the first one, which was Oscar-worthy. It won all the awards, made Russell Crowe a star, and now we have the sequel, which is, it's interesting. So, with the first one, obviously, it's the story of the last Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, who his son, Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix, kills him, blames Maximus, kills his family, and so Maximus goes from general to slave to gladiator to defy an emperor, and kicks his ass, basically, spoilers, and has some great dialogue, and, you know, I can quote Russell Crowe's dialogue all day, it's amazing. The score by Hans Zimmer is also brilliant in the first one. I thoroughly enjoy the first Gladiator. It is one of Ridley Scott's best. It is like I'd say a max, like a 9 out of 10, 9.5. It's up there. It's one of my favorites that the director has done. But with Gladiator 2, it's 25 years later. The director is pushing 90. Like, I was shocked. Like, wow, he's 90? And he's still directing. That's insane. And he still does it. Like, he just last year did Napoleon. I didn't see it, but I heard mixed things. But with Gladiator 2, what is the story? So it's set 16 years after the fall of Commodus and the death of Maximus. Rome is actually worse than where it was in the first one, but now we have it where there's two emperors, twin brothers, who are absolute psychopaths. But then you have it where this new guy who had a wife, he defends these areas, I think, of Africa, and Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, plays sort of our villain. And he comes in to do another mission for the emperors to continue to expand the empire. ends up killing the guy's wife, and so the guy ends up kind of going down the same path as Maximus. You know, a warrior who becomes a slave who becomes a gladiator, and a gladiator who defies an empire. But this time, it's a little different, and I'm going to go into spoilers about this. So, we have the Empress, the daughter of Marcus Aurelius on the first one, back. And you think, well, what is she doing here? What does she have to contribute? So, turns out the guy we've been following is actually the bastard son of Maximus. So, Maximus and the Empress did get it on, which means Maximus is kind of a cheater. He had an affair because he had his wife and child that he was trying to avenge in the first one, but turns out, he had a bastard offspring. And that offspring turns out to be Lucius, who was the kid in the first one who looked up to Maximus, and not Commodus, Joaquin Phoenix. So this is the same kid, and now he's pretty much following his father's footsteps in a surprisingly decent sequel. There is a lot of the first one in here, but also a lot of Game of Thrones, where there's a lot of betrayals and backstabbing. And first, it's funny because when the movie started, it was less violent than the first one, which kind of shocked me. But then as the movie progresses, it gets more violent and violent. I'm like, okay, I was thinking, oh god, they softened this to a PG-13. But no, they carried it through. I'm like, okay, not bad, not bad. You fooled me, Ridley. Okay. But what are my thoughts on this sequel? So it's nowhere near as good as the first one. I will say that right now. It is nowhere as good. But as a continuation of the first one, it's decent. I will admit, it is decent. It had me from the get-go. I was thoroughly impressed with this. But again, I guess you could say, quality-wise, it's not as good, because this definitely felt like a higher budget than the first one, bigger ideas, but it feels a little cheaper. Like, the first one felt big, grand, and epic with the cinematography. I don't know if it's the same cinematography, but, I mean, I doubt it. But with Ridley Scott, it's also a matter of, he's a change director. He changes the way he makes movies. So every film is different for him in visual storytelling. And this one felt like he was trying to do bigger ideas, but at the same time he was scaled back a little bit because of budget. Like, there's a whole bit at the end, which I won't get into, where you think something's gonna happen, and then they kind of cop it out for like a peace thing. I was meh about that, but I was okay with it too, given what the story is trying to tell. And then, with the acting, it's so-so. I think, most of the actors are trying to do their best with their material. But also, I will say this, Denzel Washington is the best thing about this movie. Talk about a guy, you do not expect what he does in this, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty remarkable. He plays a great character, which is somebody you don't expect to become what he becomes, and it's great. It's fantastic. Pedro Pascal, you'd think at first would be the bad guy, the main evil, devilish motherfucker that he isn't as this character, but then it turns out, he has some weight to carry that we actually kind of feel sorry for him for. And it's interesting, so when him and the son of Maximus clash, you don't want either to get killed, surprisingly. This is totally different than the first one, where you want Commodus to die. But this one, you don't want either, so it raises the stakes. It's like, okay, this is how you do a sequel. This is how you up the ante, where you don't just copy the first one. A lot of people complained this one copies it. I did not see that in this. I was thoroughly impressed. And now, I have heard he wants to do a third one, Gladiator 3, and I say, well, if you've got enough material to work with Rome, I'd say do it, and round up the Gladiator trilogy. That would be a nice box set sitting on my physical media shelf, basically. But outside of that, I will say, the action scenes are fun, really entertaining. They definitely do up the stakes in this one. Now we see the floodings of the Colosseum, which clearly they did not have the budget for in the first one, because in history that actually happened. They actually were able to flood the arena and create ship battles, and it's cool to see that in this. Mind you, my only complaint is, because the first one relied on animals, like live animals. In the first one, it was like tigers. There were tigers in the fights. Now, granted, the tigers never got hurt. They were well-trained tigers, but at the same time, there was a practicality to it in the first one. And this one, outside of, a monkey and an elephant in one shot, the majority of the animals they do use in this film is CGI. So there's baboons, there's a rhino, which is pretty cool, and I believe there was a tiger that was also CG, but there's something missing in that. Like, I understand, like, with the fighting, you can't really hurt the animals or whatever, you can't really train them, so it's better to use CG for both the baboons and the rhinos, but why did the tiger have to be CG? It's one shot as an Easter egg to the first one, and it's a CG tiger, and I'm like, you couldn't do that in live action, just get an insert shot of a tiger and then slap it in? I don't know, that was a little bit of like, okay, now this is just CG just being used for laziness. You could have used a real tiger. But I will say, again, the Colosseum looks the same, Rome looks the same, it's the same production quality as the first one, which I like. The colors definitely change. You see the passage of time, and what's really interesting is that you see essentially the Empire fall, because it's established in history that after Commodus died, the Empire just went to shit. And so you start to see that form, and so if they get to the third one, it's sort of like the table scraps of what's left of the Roman Empire. It will not likely last. Also, I will say a little disappointment. Hans Zimmer does not return to do the score. His score in the first one is brilliant. It's one of my favorites. They got Harry Gregson Williams for this, who I like. I mean, he did Chicken Run, and in Chicken Run, they actually used music from Gladiator to promote the film. I guess that's a nice passing of the torch. In fact, Ridley Scott was there to do some supervising, and also they do carry themes from his film, which I was scared because I'm thinking they're like, normally sequels don't pull themes from the original movie nowadays, but I'm glad they pulled a lot from the first one, and I felt it. I felt the weight of it. I felt the feeling of the first one again. I'm like, oh right, okay, this is a Gladiator movie. I'm in. Especially with they play Now We Are Free, which I thought, okay, nice way to wrap it up. It was nice to hear that in the theater again. It's a great song if you haven't heard it. But overall, Gladiator 2 is decent. I know some people complain about it. I know some people don't like this one. It does dull the first one. It does retcon a few things from the first one. But I thought it was an interesting idea to do a sequel. I thought it was really cool to see them continue the story. I'm surprised they were able to pull it off, and they surprised me. Now, the sequel ends in a way that kind of is a bit nicer than the first one, but again, if there are rumors of a third one, I would not be surprised if they make a third one, and I only have one thing to say, and it's kind of a little bit like, oh my god, Jack, what are you thinking? They gotta get Russell Crowe back. They gotta find some way to bring him back. Let him be that Mufasa for Lucius. Let him be a voice. Let him be a visual. Like, let him be an image, a visual. But don't resurrect Maximus. Just leave him dead. Let him talk to his son. That's what I would do. But overall, Gladiator 2's about a 7 out of 10 for me. It's not perfect. It's nowhere near the first one. But I overall had a good time, and I was fairly entertained, and so was Honey Bear. But let me know your thoughts about Gladiator 2 in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's a travesty for the first one, or do you think it's got its moments? Let me know. And don't forget to support our Patreon. Just $1 more will get you early access to all of our content, as well as other special features. I think next time I'm hopefully going to see Wicked. I'm going to be a little late to that as well. But, yeah, I'm kind of trying to get back into the movies again, now that my schedule's being a little bit more smoothed out. But, until the next video, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off, saying, what we do in life echoes for eternity. At my signal, unleash hell. The first one's got some great dialogue. I fucking love this series. So yeah, go check out Gladiator 2. Until then, I'll see you later. Take it easy.